Welcome back to another episode of My Soul Connection. I'm your host, Billie K. Kavert. Today, I'm going to pick up where we left off last week with Nadia Last for part 2 of Human Design. Nadia's Moonrise business partner, Sam Pfotenhauer, offered to step in and finish up the conversation, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise because her background is very unique and might offer you a completely different perspective than you heard the first time around. Sam is actually a part-time environmental lawyer, but has found her passion with coaching and spiritual healing through her practice called Wild River. She's also a human design expert, and she gives personal readings and teaches the system through her joint venture with Nadia Last, Moonrise Community. Some of this conversation might be a little bit redundant from part 1. I didn't want to edit any of it out because Sam offers some great alternative perspectives on energy types as well as a little bit of a deeper dive into profiles, and her take on things might be just the thing you need to walk away with something special. So without further ado, enjoy this conversation on human design with Sam Pfotenhauer. Sam, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you being here and saving me from the technical difficulties that I had on the last recording with Nadia, but I think the universe works in mysterious ways, and I think this is going to be a perfect complement to part 1 that Nadia and I already started about human design.
I'm so happy to be here, Billie. Thank you so much for having me. And I love Nadia, and we record a ton of stuff together, so it's fun that we got to do this together but separately.
Right, exactly. I know. And in the future, if we ever get to do a part 2, I might just have to have you both on. We'll see. Before we get started, I just want to have you tell the audience a little bit about yourself because I found your background super interesting, just about the ways you've weaved in and out of different careers and where you are now and what you're doing and how you got into human design.
Absolutely. My name is Samantha Pfotenhauer. I live in Austin, Texas, and I've been doing human design readings, teaching human design. Nadia and I teach together. We teach people how to read charts, and then we both give human design readings. And I've been doing that for 4.5 years. I first found human design when I was practicing law. I'm a lawyer. I graduated from Tulane University 8 years ago, clerked, and then went up to what's called Big Law. It's a law firm, type of law firm called Davis Polk. And I was practicing securities litigation. And I remember exactly where I was. I was like Midtown Manhattan, walking to my law firm, listening to a podcast about human design and manifesting generators. And it just really resonated with me, and it helped me understand myself, and it ended up being a really useful tool practicing kind of at that time in my life, practicing law, but also just figuring out like what I wanted with my career. Ended up leaving full-time practice. I still do part-time environmental law work, and now I have a coaching practice and spiritual healing practice. I see clients weekly and biweekly for emotional health support and spiritual support. And that's through my business, Wild River. That's the main work I do. I do some part-time environmental law work, which is a big passion area of mine. And it's just nice to stay sharp in that. And then Nadia and I co-teach human design together and do a lot of human design stuff.
Well, that sounds just like a manifesting generator, all right, because you've got your hands in a lot of different pots, which I can relate to, obviously, being that I'm also a manifesting generator, have a corporate career, doing this podcast, and have a lot of other interests as well. But that is a very unique one, I must say. So super impressive. Well, I think the idea with today is just to kind of pick up where we left off with Nadia. We were getting into the different energy types, and I'd love for you to give a little bit of your perspective about what an energy type actually is, just kind of lay that foundation. And then let's just get into starting to talk about each one and some of the characteristics behind them.
So Nadia already prefaced what human design is. And one of the most important thing to learn when you're first learning about your human design is your energy type. And energy types tell us what our roles are. So human design is like this blueprint, right? It's like it's a map of how our energy functions. It's kind of like astrology because they're both based off birth times and have kind of map the astrological weather, but it's different because human design tells us the main roles we play. And that's really what the energy type is here for. It's telling us our roles, the way that we most impact people, the way that we lead, and the way we can just navigate life with the most amount of ease and alignment for us, because we all have like a different operating manual. Now, energy types, there's only 5 of them. And so lots of people will have the same energy type as you, and you may realize like, well, I'm not really that much like them. Like we have totally different personalities. And I would just like to preface that because human design has a lot of complexity. There's a lot you can go into, and it can help give context to why you may feel similar or different to people with the same energy type. But the energy types are less about our personality and more about the way in which you can navigate your life, make decisions, and show up as the best version of yourself. I kind of think of it as like your Myers-Briggs type, but we can give some examples maybe and go into it.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. I'm glad you prefaced it with that because I remember when my husband, I was telling him first about when I first discovered human design, about the fact that I'm a manifesting generator. Of course, I ran off immediately to find out what his chart was. And I think I had his birth time wrong, or maybe I didn't have the date wrong, but I may have had something wrong. And it came up that he was a generator. And there was this ongoing joke about, well, I'm not as cool as you because I'm just a generator. I'm not a manifesting generator. Well, then we figured out that we're actually both manifesting generators. And I was like, how could that be? We're so different. But you just explained it. There's so many nuances beyond just the energy type, and it's not really about your personality per se. So that was a perfect example of that.
You both are so different, but as we'll go into it, you both will measure what success feels like the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll both have the same signs that things aren't going right. And you'll both have the same like process to making the right decisions. And so there actually are similarities. And that's why people really resonate with their energy type. Like a lot of people, the only thing that they ever learn about human design is what we're about to talk about today.
Right.
And that's enough. They don't need to go learn all the hundreds of other things you could learn because there's a lot of wisdom in these systems.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like this is like the core operating manual.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but there's all these other additional things that give a lot of color and help us explain like, okay, but we're all individual humans and our charts can reflect that. And then of course, there's so much in a person that can never be reduced to something in a chart.
I'm also glad that you stated that because preparation for this interview, I was listening to a few of your podcast episodes from Moonrise, which we'll talk about probably toward the end. But that's where you and Nadia have a podcast specifically about human design. And I listened to the very first one, because I just kind of wanted to know how you guys introduced it to the world for people who are brand new to it. And I liked that you said that it's not the end all be all and that it has its own limitation. And you said specifically that it can help you become a better friend or partner, can help you advocate for yourself. It can help you make decisions that feel more aligned, but also just help you see yourself and connect to yourself. And that's what this podcast, My Soul Connection, is all about. It's about learning more about yourself, how to reconnect, and how to use the strengths that you have in the world and be aware of I don't want to call them weaknesses, but maybe a shadow side of ourselves and help you move through the world. So that's a perfect way to set this up.
That's great. Yeah,
So,
human design and any tool or modality, but human design especially is just a way, it's just like a framework for asking questions,
mm,
for learning about ourselves. I encourage people to not really you don't have to accept anything that I say here as true. Just use it almost like a hypothesis to start testing. Like, what if I do have that quality? Can I
mm,
see that in myself? If that quality is true, do I like that? How could that benefit me? Maybe how do I like maybe feel resistant to it?
mhm.
How could this question or process help me? And just treat it like a science experiment. And then if it helps you, great. Keep working with it, keep
Right.
experimenting. And if not, set it aside and go explore something else.
Perfect.
Love it.
Well,
All
let's
right.
get
Should we
into the
start?
to the energy types. I guess you want to start with manifestors.
Let's start with manifestors. So Nadia and I always start with manifestors, and that's because manifestors as a type go first. So manifestors make up about 8% of the population, so they're pretty rare. 90% of people are not manifestors. They don't function like this.
Mm-hmm.
What manifestors are really great at is they have this ability to what we call initiate. Human design has a lot of vocabulary words. So you might hear these
Right.
words that we'll say a lot. You'll hear the same, and it's because it's like a set vocabulary. But what that means is manifestors have this ability, unlike anyone else, to go from an idea that just drops into their head, an inspiration, I want to do that, and then turn that into reality and execute it and create it faster and more easily than anyone else. Most
Mm.
like kings, queens, and like world leaders from like 1300s, I think that's like the oldest people have gone back to try to figure this out through
Oh,
the
wow.
1900s, were manifestors because they had an ability to take an idea and then turn it into reality very quickly, quicker than most. Because of that ability, manifestors can be exceptional innovators. They can be really great leaders. They can be trailblazers. They can have this ability to take an idea and run with it and invent things, bring new things into reality. Not all manifestors will resonate with like, I meant to shake up the world, because that's what a lot of people will associate with manifestors, and they can be. And if you're listening to that, and if you're a manifestor, you have that ability. But what manifestors also have the ability is to create a life that's very uniquely their own. And they actually need to, because if they don't, they can start to get very angry and agitated in their life. They're meant to speak. What they have this gift of is speaking their truth more clearly and quickly and exacting, and bringing kind of what they vision for themselves into reality. And so that means manifestors need to be understanding, what do I want? What's inspiring me? What's exciting me? What am I drawn to? And then am I pursuing that? And am I allowing it? And am I giving myself the space? And are people around me giving myself the space to create your own world? Manifestors desire peace, and peace means freedom. So I often think of like freedom to live the life that you want to. That's how we view it. And that's how I view it in human design. And so manifestors have this gift and ability, but also I think like karmically, a lot of their path is to create a life that feels very authentic to them and that feels true to what they want. And if they're not doing that, if they're trying to live in structures for everyone else, they miss out on their superpower, which is to create things that didn't exist before. That creation, of course, could be a business. That's how we often think about it, because it's like innovative. It's like, yeah, start something cool. Absolutely. Manifestors have that ability. But it could also be a family. It could be a lifestyle. It could be art. It could be a way that you want to experience the world that is just very true and unique to you.
Interesting. And is there a process in which they typically could or should follow in order to kind of get to the bottom of what it is that's making them tick? Like if they are struggling to figure that out, what do they do?
Great question. So manifestors have, Nadia will always say this, and I love the description. She's like, they have in many ways, like the clearest line to the universe. It's like this direct channel, and information will drop in. So manifestors actually at their core get inspired and will have things they want to do really easily. And then their job is to inform others. Their process and the way that they actually have the ability to create things in the world is to tell people, inform them, not ask for permission, not ask for guidance, not ask for an invitation, inform them, tell them, I want this, I desire this, I'm building this. That could be anything from, I really want to get Thai food tonight, that's what I'm doing, to I'm starting this company. Manifestors, because they seek that independence and the freedom, and because they're naturally powerful and like the energetic lead, and they can feel their presence. When a manifestor walks into a room, people will actually naturally look at them, but manifestors don't always realize about themselves. They often don't, I notice in readings. And so people will try to control what they don't understand. So most manifestors have had experience of being bullied as kids or controlled or restricted because people didn't really know what to do with their energy or understand them, put them down. Okay. And so they won't want to tell anyone of what they're doing. They don't want to tell people about their dreams or aspirations or what they care about or what they're building, because they don't want anyone to get in their way or to tell them it's not possible or to stop them. And what the manifestor's lesson in medicine is to actually inform people, to say it, because other people can help them. Other people can be way showers. Manifestors aren't actually meant to execute everything themselves. They're meant to create the idea and to start it. Think of it as like they're meant to start the fires, not to tend to all the fires and keep them burning. They're here to start them. And so they're here to say, like, I'm the train conductor and we're going from London to Paris, and everybody who wants to go to Paris, come on board. They're not meant to go ask everybody where we should go. They're saying, I'm going here. It would be really annoying if a train conductor pulled everybody on the train about what they wanted to go. It would never happen. Right. And so manifestors are saying, I'm going here. Now people who want to get on the train, get on board, and maybe someone can like run the engine. And so manifestors need to keep this clarity and inform. Now we can return to that, but I want to more directly answer your question. If a manifestor isn't feeling that inspiration, it's probably because they're burned out. Manifestors can get burned out easily. Their energy is meant to be dynamic, meaning that they'll get big spurts of energy and then need downtime. This can work in cycles of days. So like 2 really productive days, then 2 days really low energy, or weeks or months. So they're working really intensely on a project for a while, and then they need to slow it down. If they try to stay really consistent, they will lose out on that feeling of inspiration. Similarly, if they don't let go of projects when it's time to hand them off for other people to execute them, they're the ideas person, they're the innovator, they're the starter. They're not meant to always stay for the continuation or be the hands-on in everything. They won't get more ideas. And so if a manifestor is not feeling inspired, they really need to do an audit of their life and their time and think like, what's bringing me peace and what's bringing me freedom and what is making me feel angry and like really
Right.
agitated.
This is
Yeah.
so valuable. I know one of my best friends is a manifestor, and she's vaguely familiar with what it means. So I think this is going to be really helpful for her. But I'm just thinking of how her days are laid out and her weeks are laid out, and how she goes for a couple days, and then she rests for a couple days. Yeah, very, very aligned with that. And so tell me, kind of transitioning into manifesting generators, since that's what you and I both are, manifesting generators. I could relate to some of what you were saying on the manifestors part. Um,
Mhm.
because I have that tendency to burn hot and then burn out a little bit.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
is that also part of being the combo, if you will?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So maybe we can start with generators because
Oh,
manifesting
sure.
generators are like the combo of them.
Oh,
And then we'll
okay.
go
Yeah.
into MGs.
Yeah.
So generators are another type. They're around like 30%, maybe 35% of the population. But the gift of the generator is they have a warm and enveloping aura that attracts opportunities, people, ideas to them. And when things come in their awareness, manifesting generators have this too. When things come into their awareness, they will feel this. By awareness, I mean someone invites them to something, or they get an
Okay.
email, or they see a book. They will be like, "Oh, I'm interested in that." Like,
Mm-hmm.
like I want that. I want that sandwich. I want that dress. That book is speaking to me. I think with generators, it's kind of like certain things will just look a little sparkly. Like
Mm-hmm.
obviously this is the best thing on the menu, or obviously that person is the one that I would want to talk to. Like that's who I'm drawn to. And so as generators, find things that are sparkly to them or fulfilling or like they excite them in some way. They'll
Mm-hmm.
feel a buzziness or bubbliness. They then have the ability to pursue that, to build it, and to create it. So generators are the builders and creators. They're meant to have more singular lanes of focus. So I have 3 generator siblings. One of them has always been in education, one of them's always been in healthcare, finance, and one of them is always been in like machine learning AI. And
Mm.
they may have different iterations of it, or they can have other interests, but you'll see
Sure.
this like through line that they have this ability to devote themselves and really develop mastery and then build and create. So the manifestors will start things and then hand it off to the generator and say, please build this for me.
Mm-hmm.
Please actually show up day in and day out. And with an aligned generator, they'll say gladly, because I get a ton. Generators have the amazing gift of getting a ton of energy when they are devoted to things that they love, and then they get even more opportunities. They don't go out and create things like manifestors. They kind of wait a little bit for things to come to them and say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that. And that's who they're
So as
responding.
long as they're in alignment with working on their craft or their specialty or whatever it is, like you said, they're in their lane, things will continue to come to them. Would there be a point at
That
which that stops if they're sort of not if they're spreading themselves too thin or going in too many different
Yeah.
directions?
Both of those things can happen. So it could be the craft. I would say it's more when generators are doing things. So in human design, we have these signposts of
Mhm.
when things are aligned and when the things are not aligned. Like,
Mhm.
and they have vocab words, signature and not self. And I briefly mentioned with manifestors, peace and anger. That's why I was using those words. For
Oh yeah.
generators, it's satisfaction and frustration. When
Mhm.
generators do things that are satisfying to them, that make them feel content and fulfilled. And it was like, wow, I woke up with energy and I used it. And now I'm tired at the end of the
Mhm.
day. And I'm going
Mhm.
to go to bed tired. And I wake up tomorrow with more energy. I'm going to use it. They will keep attracting more as long as they have room for it. If they don't
Mhm.
have any room, if your life is spent and you're full, things can't come in. So
Mm.
if you want to attract more opportunities, you may need to say, I need to make some room, because like, where is it going to go? I don't have room for new friends or new. Every hour is booked. You're
Mhm.
probably not going to keep getting more stuff. Where if you're frustrated, if you're agitated, if you feel like you're hitting your head against the wall, if everything feels hard, that's the sign for generators that you
Yep.
need to stop doing that thing. And so if you're 80% of your career you find frustrating, it all feels hard, or you keep having to do these chores that you're giving yourself and you hate them, generator's job is to say, can I get a new job? Can I ask my partner or my roommate or hire out to do this laundry? Like, what are my options to decrease this? So I'm spending the most amount of my time as possible doing things that are satisfying and the least amount of time doing things that are frustrating. That's really what alignment looks like for generators.
Mm-hmm.
And all they do to figure that out is they listen to their body and they see what their body gets excited for. It sounds simple, but a lot of generators are really disconnected from that feeling. And you may need to go back to childhood to remember what it felt like to be lit up by something.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Can you think of any examples of generators you've worked with, either in a coaching capacity or doing a reading, I should say, or anyone else that just a friend or colleague who's taken some of what they've learned about human design and really applied it and just had some good results?
Yeah. So I'll use my sister as an example. My sister, I have two sisters, but one of them loves human design and studies it. And she was an educator, 7th grade teacher to Teach for America, taught in a middle school for a long time, and was feeling, I'm getting frustrated. This is really draining my energy. This is overwhelming for me. And kept having this sacral response to move to Amsterdam. She's had this really strong gut feeling. I need to be in Amsterdam. And she was like, okay, well, how do I do that? Ended up going there. She lives there now. Ended up going there to get an MBA.
Wow.
And then I'll go visit her and will literally tell me all we need to do is leave the house. And I just follow what's sparkly. Met all of her friends by like someone walking past her and them stopping and be like, what are you doing? And then she's like, come join us. And now she works for that person's company. Or just like going to a yoga class and be like, this is the right place. I'm gonna let the teacher know that I teach yoga. And then they're like, yes, we're hiring yoga teachers.
Oh my
and
gosh.
by the way, we want to train you for Pilates. And basically simply always following, does this feel like a yes in my body? What does my body say about this? And if it doesn't feel like a yes, even if it logically makes sense, I'm not going to do that thing. It was a big risk, like moving to a different country in her 30s, leaving a whole career path, but just a deep feeling in my body. And I have watched her. She already was so intelligent, so beautiful, so sparkly, but I have watched her she's like the sun. She's so bright. And then it's wild because she's like, people just come up to me. They give me stuff. They invite me to things. Like she's constantly getting invitations for stuff because she has this really strong light.
Yeah, she's just radiating it out to the field, so to speak. So
yes,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What a great example.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So then we have the manifesting generators.
Yeah.
And I should have said this before, but anyone who's at MG, I actually would encourage you maybe to even just go back and re-listen to the last 5 minutes, because a lot of what we talk about as a generator applies to MGs. MGs are kind of like the generator's cousins, like the quirky cousins, or generator with like a little bit of manifestor sprinkled in the sense that we live fully by our bodies. We need to feel what our body's response is. Do we feel that when I keep gasping because that's what it looks like to me, but it can feel like a pull. It can feel like something sparkly. It can feel like champagne bubbles or lit up, or just a deep knowing of I'm interested in that thing. It doesn't have to be like I'm interested in that thing and I'm going to marry it or like do it forever. It's just like
I wanna, a follow the footsteps kind of thing.
Yeah, let's go learn more. Let's get closer. So when manifesting generators do that, they feel satisfied. They feel content in their life. They have more energy. When they don't, they feel frustrated, they get drained, dull, uninspired, they lose their life force. What makes manifesting generators different than generators is that we have this ability to make things happen quickly. So things can come to us and we can initiate a little bit faster than generators. We move very quickly. Just manifestors move very quickly. They get an idea and then they're meant to act on it really quickly. Manifesting generators do that as well. So when we get inspired by something, all the time, MGs, I played my first tennis match. I decided I love tennis. I signed up for a 6-week tennis program and I bought 2 tennis rackets and now I'm in a league. And then they maybe after 6 weeks from now, they may be done with it.
Right.
But like I learned about human design. I'm going to listen to like 8 human design design podcasts. Like we
Yep.
tend to move very fast into our interests and then move on very quickly. Like manifestors, we have a strong desire for independence, and manifesting generators are here to walk their own path. And that way, similar to manifestors, create things that haven't been done before. So
Mm-hmm.
manifesting generators are often innovators, and they're combining paths and interests that haven't, I don't meet that many spiritual healers lawyers. I have
Yeah, right.
before. And only because I have like a few podcasts and people will
Right.
approach me for it.
Sure.
That's not a typical combination. And that's a very classic MG, like Pilates instructor accountant, or
Right.
someone who, like, you can have all different facets because MGs are multifaceted. And every human, of course, can be multidimensional, multifaceted, but it's a
Sure.
part of the way that our role. Like, so our role is to combine multiple different things. Our role is to go a nonlinear path. Our role
Mm-hmm.
is to go all in on things. There is some limitations to that. We can talk about it. And then to say, I'm complete here. I'm ready to jump to this next thing. And
Right.
then lean into that.
I already said this to Nadia, but it was like, I remember learning this about manifesting generators and feeling so validated about the fact that I'm not crazy, because I move so fast and I jump from one thing to the next, not overnight, but I mean, I get interested in something, I go all in. And then next thing you know, I'm totally down that rabbit hole and I'm creating a podcast and still have a corporate job or other interests and a lot of other things that I'm doing on the sides.
Yes. And
So
so
how,
that means,
oh,
because we do that, that also means that we can do things really well, but we may not go as deep. Like,
right.
I am not going as deep as somebody in environmental law who is practicing law full time, because I also have this, and I have like a podcast about artists. It's like a totally
Hmm.
different thing. And so because of that, you probably will go less deep, and then MGs can get insecure about that and be like, am I moving too quick? Am I not sticking with things? Am I flaky?
Mm,
And MGs are the type who do get obsessed and then walk away, and that's okay. They get a lot of energy. They get a lot of inspiration from that. They get to explore a lot with that.
mhm.
And it's just important that they are monitoring their commitment levels and making sure, like, we're not going to go spend $4,000 on a camera that we're not going to use in 2 weeks. Like, that's
Right.
unwise. Go
Yes.
borrow one.
Right.
MGs who get
See, make
excited,
sure you
like,
like it.
make sure you like it. Like, measure your investment into
Mhm.
things before you go too far, because you do have that tendency to pivot, but it's okay to pivot, and it's okay to love lots of things and then
Mhm.
fall out of love with them.
Right. Well, tell us about what's next. Is it projectors? I guess
We'll do
projectors are next.
reflectors next.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about reflectors next. So reflectors are only 1% of the population. And so if you were to pull up your chart, you can do that for free. I should have maybe said this at the beginning. If you want to look at your chart, go to moonrisecommunity.com. You can pull up
Mm,
your chart for free. And it's going to have a bunch of shapes and lines and numbers, and you're not going to know what any of it means. And all of it's information to me.
mhm.
When I spoke earlier about, there's tons of information. That's from that chart. We can speak at hours about any chart. But it'll say at the bottom, you're a generator, you're a manifestor, or you're a reflector. Reflectors are really interesting because when you look at their chart, they're all white. It's like a bunch
Mm,
of open white shapes. And that is relevant. It's important here because reflectors they're like a sponge. They're most receptive. Their function is to go into a community and to be able to feel into how everyone's doing. What's the emotional temperature? How are people doing with their health and their well-being? How creative are they? And how much creating? So like creative, like artistic, but also like creating. Like, what are
mhm.
we producing and putting out? How's their voice? What are people thinking? They have the ability to go into spaces and to read other people. And when they can sharpen that skill, then to know what people need to be healthier, to be happier, to connect better. So they make excellent evaluators for this reason. They can really feel into a space and know this is what this group needs. This is what this person needs also. And reflectors have this ability to see others
Mhm.
in a deep way, and especially to see large groups of people, but individuals as well. What makes the experience challenging for them is that because they're kind of like, they're just, if you've ever heard the word empaths, or
Mhm.
even a lot of reflectors would relate to being a highly sensitive person, they are getting a lot of information all the time. So all types, pretty much like 99.5% of charts, have some openness.
Mhm.
Let me look at your chart. So one of your abilities is you can walk into a room and really feel other people's emotions.
Mhm.
You can really sense other people's emotions. One of my abilities is I can go in and I can really feel people's anxiety and fear. And it gives me a ton of information about how people are doing. And especially because I do spiritual healing work, fear, anxiety is like a big part of emotional well-being.
Mhm.
That's useful for me. But
Mhm.
if I went into every single room and I felt that, it's a ton of information. And a lot of reflectors might not know what to do with that information or how to navigate this information, or if they don't feel valued for what they see, or if they feel dismissed, they won't
Mhm.
always be able to trust themselves. And so one of the best things to do to support a reflector is to ask them, what do you think? Or what are you seeing? And then to listen to them
Right.
and to like actually take what they're saying seriously, because they may tell you things that you didn't see, and that might even be surprising or hard to hear, but there can be a lot of value.
And I guess, I mean, I guess it's not surprising that I've never met a reflector or at least a
Yeah.
known reflector, because
Yeah.
it's such a small percentage of the population. But it sounds like they're people that really need to protect their energy too, right? Because if they're that empathetic, wouldn't it be
Mhm.
hard for them not to sort of absorb all that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Every type needs a lot of maintenance, energetic maintenance, because we all do as people. Like we all should be cleaning our energy just like we brush our teeth every day. And reflectors, it's especially important too. And I just want to ping, if there's any reflectors listening, go on our Moonrise YouTube. For all the types, me and Nadia break down each energy type in greater detail than I am here for
Hmm.
free on our YouTube. But if you go to the reflector video, you're going to see dozens of comments from other reflectors, and it
Oh,
can just put it in the language is really nice, because they're only 1% of the population. It can be hard to like hear
sure.
firsthand experiences, but reflectors absolutely need to be managing their energy. Otherwise, they can get confused
Hmm.
about what's the right path for me. How do I actually feel about this? How do I actually think about this? They can get highly influenced by those around them, which can be great if they're around really confident, empowered people. They can get
Hmm.
expanded by that or get these boosts of energy. But if they're around people who are emotionally dysregulated or have a lot of limiting beliefs or have a heart really like they don't have very strong self-worth, if they have unhealthy relationships with their bodies, reflectors are going to be even more sensitive to that. So it's like an important thing for reflectors to really explore their relationship with themselves and what feels safe and loving and healthy for them and what
Hmm.
doesn't.
Yeah, good point though about all of us needing to protect our energy because on some level there's aspects of that all around the world all the time, right? So
Mhm.
it made me think of one
Absolutely.
other thing. Do you think that most clairvoyant people are reflectors?
No.
No?
I know
Okay.
it's a great question. It
Mm.
makes perfect sense for you to ask that, but I do some mediumship work and spirit guide communication, and I know a lot of psychic people, and they're all types.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope to meet a reflector someday because I'd just love to see what
Absolutely.
it's like to be in their presence and feel what they're feeling or like you said, listen to what they say based on their observations.
I have this friend from law school who's a reflector and was just brilliant, top of her class, went to go work at a great law firm and practice mergers and acquisitions law for a while, and then transitioned into working with in like a staffing role, and
Mhm.
part of his job is working with tons of lawyers and sensing it and how people are doing and who would balance well on a team. What skills do we need to balance out? And that is such a good role for a reflector. Like, I
Mm.
think reflectors, we don't talk about them in leadership positions a lot because we often will talk about like a manifestor, project, really all types can be great leaders. But I
Sure.
think reflectors make really valuable leaders because they can sense this is your strength and you're lacking here. And wouldn't it
Mm.
be great if we added this person here, or this team has this really strong intellectual energy, but there's no one really on it who's bringing more emotional wisdom or
Mm.
more or strong willpower, whatever it is. Let's get someone on that team. Reflectors have that ability to see that, and but they need to be listened to, and and that they don't always get that opportunity.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. Makes me wonder what kind of career choices would be best for them. So, tell us about projectors now. Yeah.
Projectors. So projectors are about 20% of the population, but a lot of people who find human design are projectors, and I think that's important. Projectors also have this incredible ability to see. They have what we call a penetrating aura. So the
Uh-huh.
aura being the energy field around you, all
Uh-huh.
types of different auras. And projectors peer into with precision into whatever
Mm.
they're looking at, kind of like with a magnifying glass.
Mm.
They can really peer in and see you or system. They have the ability to penetrate whatever they're looking at. So it could be a person, it could be a system, it could be an organization, and see things that other people are not seeing. They get more information than others. It's so in the way that reflectors are getting a lot of information, reflectors have a really wide scope. They're looking
Mhm.
out at a big thing. Projectors are narrowing in like a magnifying lens with a lot of detail. Projectors, because of that, have this, they're also being kind of, I think, energetically called into more leadership positions
Mm.
because they're here to bring in new perspectives that are being missed. They can take in a ton of information that other people aren't seeing and then use that to lead and to shift and to create new ways of being. What is really interesting about projectors is that they have this great ability to see, and that can make them very efficient because they can see better ways of doing things, or just see like we should focus our energy on this 20% thing for 80% of the results. Like
Mm.
they
Yeah.
can, I always felt like that with Nadia. I could talk to her for a half an hour and she could help me improve something we were working on and make it like in like half the time. Like she just
Right.
had this knowing of like, this is what we should leverage to increase the benefits of it. What is interesting about
Mhm.
projectors, and manifestors and reflectors share this too, is that they have less consistent levels of energy. And so like manifestors, their energy may go in waves, or just have less of it. It's totally, this is where like I would need to look at someone's chart because there's a vast array of different types of projectors.
Sure.
And people always say projectors don't have that much energy, need to nap. And like, that's not necessarily true. Both my parents are projectors. I know tons of wildly successful projectors, but they do need to be wise about their energy and where they're putting it and be auditing it often and to check in of like, how am I over giving or am I putting my energy out too much? Because otherwise they will burn out and they will lose that ability to see as
Mm.
deeply. With this type, I mentioned with manifestors too, like if you're not seeing, it's probably because you're overextending your energy. It's like a trade-off where manifesting generators and generators will get more like amount of energy, but they may not be seeing as much.
Mm.
I heard an analogy a long time ago that I like with projectors of think of a bird in a tree. And if on a savanna, and the manifesting generators and the generators are like the elephants walking to the watering hole, and they can cover a lot of ground and they're big and they can like take up space and they can get there. And if the bird tried to go down with the manifesting generators and generators, it might not be able to keep up and it
Mhm.
would be slower. But if it was up in the tree, it could say, hey guys, you're taking the long way to the watering hole. I have a different perspective. Go this way. It'll save you some time.
Oh, interesting.
And then like everybody is benefiting and working so much better, and there's nothing wrong with the bird. It's just was a bird, it should be up in a tree, and it needs to be using its gift differently than being necessarily on the ground floor. So something that projectors have to know is that the way that they come into alignment with themselves is they wait for an invitation to
Mhm.
share what they see. They see a lot. And so it's important that they wait for an invitation because not everybody wants that much intimacy and wants to be read that deeply.
Mhm.
And they're not ready for that level of wisdom or truth. And they don't want it. And they didn't invite you to see them like that. But also it's important because projectors will see things and they want to be recognized for it. And if they're not invited in, they're going to waste energy trying to get people to pay attention to what they're seeing and to
Mm.
listen to them. And in reality, they need to go wait for the people who actually value them, who already see, I see what you're offering and I see what you value. I value you and I care about what you have to say and I'm interested in that. Does that make
So,
sense?
yeah, it totally does. And I'm thinking of one of my really close friends who's a projector and who actually has been a great guidepost for me because she does point out things that she sees from a different perspective that I would have never thought of. So I can totally relate to all the stuff you just said. But I'm wondering, you're mentioning waiting for the invitation to share what they're seeing with people, but
Mhm.
what about with the direction of their life path or something that they
Great
really want
question.
in life? Is that also a wait for
No,
invitation type of thing? No.
no,
Okay.
it's just to share what they see. So you
Interesting.
do
Okay.
not need an invitation to move. You do not need an invitation to start a business, though it would probably feel better. It's just nice when someone's like, you're so good
Sure.
at this,
Yeah.
start
For all
this.
of us, right?
You don't need an invitation to go on a trip or to get a cool outfit. You need an invitation to see, to
Gotcha.
share what you're seeing. So basically don't give unsolicited advice and feedback.
Right.
Wait for that. But you can you can attract invitations by making yourself bright. So Nadia is a projector, has a thriving therapy practice. She's not doing an internet presence now, but she had a podcast and she had a
Mm-hmm.
social media, and she would just share on there, and she
Mm-hmm.
would share her perspectives and her stories, and people found her and then reach out to be her clients and say, I want to pay you for you to see me.
Right.
And like, what an amazing way. She is getting invited in when people walk in her practice door.
Yeah.
And she doesn't, go tell people, let me be your therapist. They come in, they invite her in. And that can apply to anything. You can make yourself more visible by being brighter
Mm-hmm.
and letting people know, like, I have a skill and an interest in this topic. So if no one knew she existed, then it would be harder for them to ask her for that. She needs to share things about herself and her life and what she's building. And that's true for any projector starting anything.
Yeah. So it's almost like don't play small. Just go ahead and shine your light brightly. And people who want to get that feedback and who are interested will come to her. And I'm saying her, Nadia, and my other friend that I'm referring to. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What a gift.
It's so cool. And projectors have to experiment with this,
Yeah.
because some will be like, no, I'm going to go a little bit further and I'm going to be a little more proactive, or I'm just going to say what I feel and do it. Like, why not? And see how it is. Like, this is something that is somewhat felt. You can
Mm-hmm.
start to feel, is somebody open to me or not? I think it can be really easy for projectors to feel disempowered by this. I have to wait. I have to just wait for everything. And if you don't feel like that's working, go be more active.
Mm-hmm.
And then see how it goes. Experiment with this, because what eventually you'll get to is you can sense this, like, I'm chasing and I'm reaching in and I'm trying to get people to pay attention to. When projectors are not in alignment, they feel bitter. They'll be like, no one's paying attention to me. No one recognizes how awesome I am. Like, this is so dumb. I know how to do better than everyone, kind of huffy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in that space, then that's a sign that you're not being seen or you're pushing people. And so you will start to feel what it feels like for people to be open to you. Sometimes people
Mm-hmm.
don't ask you, what do you think? But because it's your best friend, that
Right.
they care about what you think
Sure.
on most topics. But you may know, like, I can't give her unsolicited advice about her ex-partner because
Right.
she doesn't. She's not open to that unless she asks. And that's something that you only develop through developing your own emotional intelligence and your awareness.
Right. It's like I tell my friend, I'm like, you have carte blanche to give me advice or say what you're seeing anytime, unless I specifically say, I'm not looking for advice right now. I just want to vent. This is what I'd like to share with you, and I just want to get it out. And then she knows. So that's the way we deal with it. But so I want to just give people a flavor for all of the other complexity outside of just understanding the energy type. I know that some people, like you said, will go get their chart. They'll try to understand their energy type, and that's really as far as they need to go. I mean, for me, that I've gone a little deeper than that, but I'm just super busy, so I haven't really gone down that rabbit hole as much as I'd at some point like to. But there's so much value in the energy type part alone. But what else, if people did want to dive a little bit deeper, what kinds of things will they pick up on that make them very unique through the gates and channels and things? Can you give it like an overarching overview?
Yeah, I'd love to. So there's a lot of things in there, as you noted. And one is, how do you make decisions?
Mhm.
Like, what's the best way for you to make decisions? There's 9 different ways that people make decisions. Another one is, how do you receive different types of energy? Are you someone who's really sensitive to other people's emotions or their ways of thinking? Or is it easy for you to lose your sense of self, your identity in others? Are you someone with really, really strong intuition, really, really strong willpower, really, really strong voice that's meant to share your mind or express yourself or express your emotions? And how to use that? It's like, okay, we have that, and then what? Like, what are the strategies to actually leverage those gifts so they benefit you? And notice, where am I most likely to get off track? Human design's great at telling us where we're most likely to sabotage ourselves,
Mhm.
and then providing a framework of what to do when that's happening so we can spot it more quickly and rebound. There's this So what I was referring to, just for anybody who's maybe already in the system, that I'm talking about authorities, I'm talking about centers. Now, there's also the gift of what we call gates and channels, and this is where
Mm.
it gets really fun, really specific. We have a few videos. Nadia and I did a course on gates and channels, which you can purchase, but we also have a few videos on our YouTube for anybody who wants to just like get a taste. So you can go
Hmm.
explore those on Moonrise Human Design. And gates are like your individual, like much more specific because there's 64 of them. Your gifts, the flavors of the way your energy, your biggest life themes, and where they show up, how it impacts to your love and relationships, how it impacts um, your abundance and your career, how it impacts your purpose, how it impacts your emotions, all these different specific pieces. So I would love to just look at your chart and I can give an example.
Oh, yeah, that'd be perfect.
So your
Excuse me.
north node, so a big part of your purpose and how you really experience this really kicked in your 40s, but you may have felt it before. I feel mine now. It's kind of like your guiding storyline, and it's how you connect most deeply with yourself, is the ability to intuitively take leaps and take risks that make your life feel meaningful. It's this need and ability to, you're very intuitive. You have a ton of intuitive energy in your chart. You have this deep body-based knowing of when you're safe and when you're not. And one of your ways that you're meant to use that is to know, I need to take this leap because it's going to make my life feel more vibrant and full. And with that comes a fear that if I don't take it, my life will become dull. And
Hmm.
as a result, like part of your purpose is to be feeling into what leaps will expand me, not logically thinking of them. That's actually a big place you go off track, would be to logically pro con it out. Now you can use your mind to be like, I am going to take this leap because I know I need to. How do I do it wisest? Like my sister has that. She actually has this, who moved to Amsterdam. This is a
Hmm.
huge part of her chart too. So I need to take this leap. How do I do it the most wise way? Like an MBA versus just like moving there without a plan. But I feel that in my body. Another example would be that one of your biggest gifts is the ability to navigate difficult conversations and to have friction and to navigate conflict and to actually go and talk about things or name things that need to be stated so we can resolve it and create more intimacy and connection. And this gift can show up in a lot of ways. So my dad's a financial advisor and has this. And I think that could be like, we need to have some, I'm not afraid to have difficult conversations around
Hmm.
money.
Yeah, I can definitely.
I can sense you're uncomfortable. Go ahead,
Oh, no, I was
please.
just going to say I can definitely relate to this at work because there's a lot of difficult conversations that have to be had in my job. I'm in medical sales, medical consulting, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me in leadership who've said, you're really good at navigating these tough conversations and making sure that you're heard and that you're addressing the problems that we have, but without pissing anybody off, basically. Like you do it very um it's very gentle, really. It's very diplomatic. That's the word I was looking for. So it's good to
Yes.
to know that about myself.
Yeah, yeah, you have that. You have a lot of communication gifts. And in your career and abundance, a huge part of it is being able to speak like speak candidly and
Hmm.
honestly and what's true for you in a way that people can really hear. And it kind of can be like, oh, I wasn't expecting you to say that. I'm even a little bit surprised. But you do it based in a lot of love and honesty and truth. And
Hmm.
so it's received well. And then you have this other gift that's all about your ability to develop mastery and become excellent at really
Hmm.
anything you do. And so can give you this ability to, I'm going to communicate wisely. I'm going to become strong at communication. I'm going to communicate wisely in a way that other people can hear and can digest this. And at the same time, deliver things that they haven't heard before or that might even surprise them because it's a little
Right.
bit outside the norm of the conversation.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's great. Another one that I wanted you to just touch on, if you don't
Yeah.
mind, is
Yeah.
the profile and what the profile means. Because as I understand it, it's kind of like the role that you play in your lifetime. And when I read about my profile, I didn't quite get it at first. I have this profile of being a role model and a martyr on the other side.
Uh-huh.
And I was just reading through my report again this morning that the first 30 years of my life, the martyr was the more dominant presence. And then I went through this period between age 30 to where I am now of oscillating between the martyr and the role model, and now into my late 40s and pushing more into the role model portion where I'm using the wisdom that I've gained after having tried things my whole life, after having to test the waters for myself because I'm somebody that doesn't really like to take people's word for it. I have to try it myself. And then I go back and I share my experiences with people, with my tribe. But can you talk about how the profiles like play out in people's lives?
Yeah, absolutely. Profiles, there's 12 of them, and they are roles. We use that a lot because the energy types are also roles. I think of them as more archetypes and kind of
Mm,
like the hat that you wear. So, like, are you in the research department? Are you in the connection department? Are you a teacher? Are you somebody who's like getting out onto in the field? Like, if you
uh-huh,
think about like scientists, like, are you doing field work? Are you reading books? Are you connecting with everybody? That's kind of like the types of roles that people will play.
okay.
And again, if anybody wants to learn more, we have like 12 to 15-minute videos on each one for free on our YouTube, and they're great. You can go into them a little bit more. So this can be really useful because it can highlight the two parts of us and how we can bring them together. So for instance, I'm a 4-1. The names of them, like the martyr, freak people out. Mine's the opportunist investigator. What really mine means is I'm meant to build close networks and connection and influence people through relationship. And I'm
Uh-huh,
also an investigator and a learner, meaning that all my work, everything I do always needs to have a community relationship component and always
uh-huh,
needs to allow me the ability to learn and to really dive deeply into books, resources, teachers, educators. If I've had career paths where I only have one over the other and it's out of balance, and
okay.
I need to be in like I can care for myself. If I'm feeling out of balance in myself, I can go to those things and say, what's the quality of my relationships right now? That's that relationship community part. And am I giving myself opportunities to learn? And is there something fun? Am I like creating that space in my life? There's all these different parts of it. So with you as a what we call a 6-3, like you said, a role model martyr, your first 30 years were all trial by error. You were in the field work
Amen.
stage exclusively. You were going out into the field and you're trying things.
Hmm.
And you gave yourself a ton of information and gave everyone else a ton of information. And then, but it can feel hard. You can feel like you're bumping up against life and you'll
Hmm.
get some bruises because you
For
tried
sure.
things and they didn't always work out. And sometimes it can feel like, did I fail at this? Or like, why does it feel like it didn't work out when it seems like it did for other people? And
Hmm.
you actually always retain a big part of you that has that needs to be in the field. But in once you hit around age 28, definitely at 30, you start to integrate more of those lessons. You're like,
Hmm.
okay, I just lived a ton. Let's pause and reflect. And naturally, you start to distill it into wisdom. And then you start to be able to guide and lead other people with your wisdom that you learned from your actual lived experiences. This isn't abstract. You didn't learn this just from a book. You learned it from going out and doing it. And so
Hmm.
that gives you like a modesty and a humbleness because you were kind of roughed up by life, but
Hmm.
you have this ability to extract wisdom from it. And so you always are kind of like, there's a piece of you that's wise and that's finding it and that's making sense of your life experiences, and the piece of you that just has to keep trying things and being new and even feeling like it's failing, but knowing like, as long as I'm learning, I'm never actually.
Right. Oh gosh, that's so it's very it very much mirrors where I'm at in my life right now. I mean, I just thought I finally matured out of trying stupid
Yeah.
things because a lot of the things I tried in my younger years were kind of stupid, and some of them were, and I'm being tongue in cheek, obviously, but a lot of the things were just me going after life and taking risks and trying to make something really happen for myself, and then not really panning out the way I wanted it to. Learning from it, bringing that experience into my world now, and it's learning from those mistakes and then turning that into wisdom that I end up sharing with people. So part of the reason for this podcast, actually, a friend of mine I was talking to yesterday said, I love this new Billie K 2.0 because they know I'm sort of going through this transition in life over the last few years and it is really from lived experience and then learning from a lot of my mistakes and hitting a rock bottom in my life that made me kind of look at things and reevaluate things and start to view my life from a different lens. And so that all plays into where I'm at now with trying to share this with others. So,
So cool. I'm so glad that you learn it and that it's resonating with you and that it sounds like it's helping you, like human design.
absolutely helping me for sure.
Yeah, that's great.
And some of the things that I've learned, it's like I had a deep knowing about them, but maybe I wasn't at the point of trusting myself yet and trusting my own intuition. I think in the last few years, that's really where I've gotten is to learn to really trust my intuition. You mentioned I'm a really intuitive person and that it shows that in my chart. For me, where it's been most useful is I joked about it in the beginning saying, well, good, I'm not crazy. I'm just a manifesting generator. It's like knowing that I have this uniqueness about myself, which everyone does, but learning to trust that I'm on the right path and this all makes sense from what we're seeing in my chart. So that's kind of how I see
Yes.
people being able to apply what they're learning about human design to their real life. So, yeah.
So much of it is self-permission. Like, so much of this is it's a even though it might sound a little strange to anyone who's listening who's kind of new to this sort of stuff, it's like, well, why do I need this other thing to tell me nothing's wrong with me? But it really is a wild experience when you go read a written report on your chart or you have a reading with somebody and they're describing with like specificity how it feels to be you and like things that you always knew about yourself but no one's put into word,
Mhm.
and things even that you thought were wrong and you genuinely thought like I didn't even have to, I knew that that was a fault of mine, and then they're like, no, there's actually nothing wrong with you, here's all the ways it's a gift and here's how you could be utilizing it as such. And when you start to live your life believing there's nothing wrong with me, and in fact, these things are superpowers and I can use them as such, and I can
Mhm.
manage for the parts that were hard, it wildly opens up your life. And it's just very validating because it's this external thing outside of you. Like, I've given hundreds of readings. I don't know the far majority of these people before. Like, I don't know anything
Right.
about their lives.
Mhm.
And so it's wild to have a stranger tell you these things and just to be like, okay, well, if this is true, if I could maybe believe that, how would it change my life? And for me, it's changed it rapidly. And rapidly, but the word I meant to use is significantly.
Right. I thought I was gonna say radically maybe. Yeah.
Radically,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you already mentioned you've got a Moonrise podcast, which goes much deeper into all kinds of little intricacies of human design. So that's a joint effort with you and Nadia. So if anyone's out there that wants to learn more, that's a good place. And you mentioned all the YouTube channels. I definitely need to go there and check out some of those free resources. That's awesome. You can also get the free chart on, is it moonrisecommunity.com? Of
That's
course,
right.
this will all be
Yep.
in the show notes. There's a guidebook. Tell us about the guidebook. I actually bought one for my husband. So it's
Oh, that's
amazing.
awesome. Yeah. So Nadia and I wrote a guidebook. We wrote like 800 pages, and it's really cool because your guidebook won't be 800 pages. Your guidebook will be
Right.
like 65 pages, but it goes through and it creates a written report. We wanted people to be able to learn a ton about their human design in a way that was accurate, without at a lower price point. And
Sure.
so I think it's $60. It's around there,
Hmm.
and you can get it immediately. They also make great gifts. So you just put in your chart information at the chart, and you can just purchase a guidebook, and it's
Hmm.
beautiful. It's around 65 to 70 pages. It has tons of information describing what we just talked about, but then in so much more detail. And it's a great way to learn about yourself and anyone else you want to learn about. And that's available on our website, moonrisecommunity.com.
Yeah, I can definitely vouch for that. I got it for my husband for Father's Day, actually. He loved it. He's still a little like, "Ooh, this is a lot though," because there's so much information in there. But the beauty of it is you can take it in chunks and read what you want to read, stop, digest, go back to it. I had it nicely laminated and everything. This was a gift. But kind of next
That's so
level when you want to get
sweet.
that human interaction and interpretation, you and Nadia do readings as well, human design readings. So that would be kind of the next level. And I did one with Nadia a couple of years ago, which is after I had found her podcast and was introduced to human design initially. So both very, very valuable. I know you
Yeah.
also offer a course. Is the course mainly
Mhm.
for people who want to teach human design or just who want to learn more about it or all of the above?
Anybody who wants to learn more about it. So it's an extensive course. We have two. One is just on gates and channels. It's kind of an advanced concept. I wouldn't recommend that one unless you already know a lot about human design. And then we
Hmm.
have one that just tells you everything you need to learn. We have like 45 hours of lectures in there
Wow.
that
Okay.
Nadia and I recorded. And so it's very in depth, and it's dense, but it's really comprehensive and it's price accessible. We just could not find a training that we thought was really good and at a price we wanted to see, so we just made one. And we've taught it live 4 times to 4 groups. It takes us about 4 months to teach it. We meet for like 2.5 hours a week for about 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
And then we just decided we should put this and make this available for people anytime they
For
wanna
sure.
learn it. People do come in there who wanna learn to do readings, and you can do that after, but I would say the far majority are just people who are like, "This is fun, and I
Hmm.
like this, and I'm maybe interested in we've had people who are HR or doctors or masseuse or what moms and who are just like, I want to bring this into my life. But a lot of it's like, I want to do this for me. And I'm having a ton of fun with it. And I love learning about this. And this is endlessly fascinating to me. And why shouldn't I just learn more about the thing that's really exciting? It's something that always is wonderful to see is it's a very positive personal experience in
Mhm.
addition to like an intellectual experience.
Right. It reminds me of yoga teacher training. I do a lot of yoga, and I hear people,
Yeah.
like the vast majority of people who do yoga teacher training just want to enhance their own practice. They're not actually doing it because they want to become an instructor. So same kind of thing. Yeah. And lastly, you have Wild River, which is a podcast and a
Mhm,
business as well. Is that the name of the business where you do the spiritual
mhm.
coaching and the
Yes.
relationship coaching?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Well, we will put
Yeah. So I offer spiritual healing sessions. These are great for a spiritual perspective on anything happening in your life. So this
Mm,
could be loss, needing to make a really big decision, breakups, divorces, new jobs. Someone came in recently who's trying to conceive. Not not because it's like, oh, you're gonna have a girl or something like that, because it's
right.
like I need a spiritual perspective on my experience or on this decision. Or I'm feeling really emotionally overwhelmed. And they're great. I blend human design, intuitive work, spirit guide work, and I read people's energy. I do Reiki, and we
Mm.
just blend it all together to
Oh,
create
wow.
something that is really supportive. And then I also offer coaching. So I see clients weekly or biweekly, and it kind of falls into two categories: spiritual mentorships, we go on a spiritual path. Being in a spiritual awakening, being on a spiritual path can be very intense and
Yes.
really exciting, but
Hmm.
you're creating a new way of living and a new kind of guidepost for yourself. And it's very beneficial to have support of someone who is like very devoted to a spiritual path and has been living and teaching it for many years, but who also
Hmm.
is in like the regular world as well. And then I do relationship coaching. I work with people, primarily women ages 30 through 50 with um, relational trauma, so past negative relational experiences as children or adults who are reconnecting with their bodies and their spirituality so they can have really healthy, vibrant relationships, romantic relationships.
Right. Oh my gosh, what a great offering you have, and you just have so many different aspects to your personality and to your unique gifts. So that's amazing that you're using it in that
You.
way. So congratulations on all that. Well, thank you
Thank you
so
so
much for
much.
coming in and closing out this human design episode. This was awesome. I know Nadia got to do the intro, and she's really the one who got me into human design. So I want to pay homage to her, and
We
love that
love
you guys are
Nadia.
still doing all this stuff together. I know Nadia is amazing. If you ever need a
She's
therapist,
amazing.
she is somebody I would highly recommend. So,
Me
or
too.
for human design and all the other stuff too. So, thank you so much, Sam, and we'll be keeping tabs on you. I'm definitely going to be tuning into your other podcasts as well. So,
Thank you, Billie. And thanks for everyone who listened.
yeah.
And thanks for having me.
Okay, well, take care. Thank you for joining us in exploring the wisdom of human design. Remember, your energy type is your blueprint for living an aligned life. Trust your intuition, honor your unique design, and keep following what feels true to you. Be sure to review the show notes to see how to best connect with Sam or Nadia and their Moonrise community website if you feel called to get your own personalized human design guidebook or book a reading. If today's conversation inspired you, please be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Until next time, keep connecting with your soul.